All right, guys, welcome to part two for today. Wait a minute. 5 people? Guys, where's everybody else? Nobody want any grade today? Okay. Hey guys, can you hear me? Anybody there?
Hearing you, sir.
Right. So I'm to everybody else. They on them way? Or you don't know?
No idea.
Okay. Well, I was giving it a little time, but the show must go on. Okay, so we have a pop quiz today. Can you believe it? Joel, you ready for the pop quiz, Joel? Is Joel here?
No, sir.
You're not ready for the pop quiz?
No.
Well, the pop quiz is ready for you guys, right? All right, so, well, we have more of a pop activity, not a pop quiz, right? Which is the same like a pop quiz, except you don't have to study for this. For this, you just have to be present, and you need to have Revit up and running. So we're going to tackle a class activity today in class. And regardless of where you are with the final project, everyone can participate. Well, at least those who are here, right? So to do this, you will all need to fire up Revit. And I think we can get through it pretty quickly in like 30 minutes. All right. Then when you do this, you're gonna submit it using I'm gonna just throw a link on the mirror board, right? Because you know how these activities are, right? They pop up, and if you are here, then you get to participate and you get to grab your participation grade. So I'm gonna go over here to where it says class activities, right? And I'm gonna move this over there. I'm gonna make a copy, right? And this will be our class activity for today. What we're going to do is we are going to create a title block in Revit, and then you are going to paste a screenshot of your title block on the mirror board. You know, the usual thing, right? Remember to put your name. We're going to create two things. We're going to create we're going to create a cover page, and we're going to create a like a drawing, the typical drawing page, right? You just need to show me one of each. All right, don't worry, we have a tutorial prepared for doing that, so we're going to actually go through that tutorial. So I'm going to drop a sheet here, and I'm going to say, put this over here, the front. Okay, let me go the back. Okay, there we go. Right. So for this activity, we're going to say using, oh, let's make this a little bigger. All right, so using one of the templates below, create a title block family and paste a screenshot on the mirror board. Below. All right, let me put this up top. Quick question, guys. The background of the mirror board is what color for you? Is it gray like mine, or is it white for you? Anybody in the mirror board?
Okay.
What you said? It's gray?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's mimicking my mirror board. That's fine. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, then. So this will be our activity for today. So what you're going to do is let me give you an example of what it would look like. So for example, this will be it. Hold on. You know what? No, it's not a screenshot that you're going to give me. It's actually the PDF. Da-da-da, and paste a PDF export. Right. A PDF export on the mirror board below. There we go. Right. So for example, I'm trying to find where I put mine. I'll just print another one. It's fine. So you're going to put your name. And then you're going to put your two prints, PDF prints below. So you'd put like one here and one here. Right. And then one will be your cover page. And then the other one will be your drawing page. Or I should call it document page. No, let's call it drawing document typical page. A little long-winded, but you get the idea. All right, so basically, oops, I'm gonna repeat this a few times, and you guys are gonna swap out where I have drawing information. You're gonna swap these out with your PDFs for each page. All right. All right, so this is where you will paste your word, just like what you did above. When you participated in this class activity. That's what we're going to do today. All right, so we are going to get going. So I want you guys to fire up Revit, and we're going to do this in class. It doesn't matter where you are, as I said, with the final project. You can still follow along even if you have an incomplete model. It doesn't matter because we're only focused on the title sheet. So I'm going to show you how to create a title page in Revit. Alrighty. All right, for those of you who are just joining, we're going to be we're going to do a class activity today where we'll create a title sheet in Revit. We're going to do it right here in class, and you're going to submit it. And then, as usual, when I leave, I'm going to close the mirror board. So we need to do this as in class, preferably, in order to participate. Okay, then. Let us proceed.
So I want us to know.
Here we go. All right, let's go.
Put some focus on creating drawing sheets. And I want us to kind of understand what the process is of creating drawing sheets. Now, if we take a step back and look at the overall process for BIM production, we can see that we had some schematic designs. And these schematic designs were in the form of sketches. Now, if you look at these percentages here, this is the amount of times we would have dedicated to producing each one of these stages in a BIM production drawing. And what you realize is that there is a large amount of time that was spent on creating the BIM model. Then 20% is spent on generating views from that BIM model, 20% of the time. So it still requires some amount of effort to create these views, but not nearly enough as what it takes to create the initial BIM model. Now, what we're going to be looking on is the creation of the drawing sheets. And if you notice in this process, it takes the least amount of time, because what it is placing individual views that were created, that was generated from the BIM model on the sheets. But it's not as simple as just dropping them on the sheet, because the sheet is what helps to coordinate a set of drawings. And in a drawing, there can be many different views, and somebody who is navigating these views, they depend on the sheet configuration so that they're able to find the information they're looking for about the building. So we'll be looking at some of these on how to create a sheet and how to go about creating an organizational structure for the views that we place on the sheet. So let's take a look at an example of a drawing sheet. So for this project here, there are a couple things that you can identify. The information and the drawing is located in this zone that you see here. So this zone here has all the drawing information, and then you can see another area on the side which houses information to help navigate the drawing and to also know what type of drawing are you looking at. So for example, if we should take a look on some other sheets, so this is a floor plan sheet that's here, and again you can see the information of the drawing is here, and then if you look into the title block area here, you can see where it has like the name of the project, the exact sheet, who created the drawing, usually by initials, right, who designed it, who drew it, who checked it, and sometimes who approved it, the important sheet name that's usually here, things like the date and the scale. All of these are information that you find in this zone that you see on this side. And then there are different types of sheets. So for example, this would be floor plans. Then we might have elevation sheets. And if you notice, each one of these sheets has the same organizational structure. You have the drawings in one zone, and then you have what you call the title block, where you have the information to help you to navigate those sheets. So this would be an example of a typical drawing sheet. So usually the drawing sheet will have two types of layout. One where the title block is to the right side, and we just saw an example of that. And then we have another one where the title block is at the base. Now, these are the two locations that we usually have title blocks. And remember, the title block is where you find information about the drawing and about the project, right? So it remains consistent on each sheet. Now, if we should break this down, the typical sheet design will usually have a cover page, and then the rest of the pages will follow a typical layout. So if we look on the cover page, a typical cover page normally has a project name, maybe it has a perspective view or an elevation view of the project, the location, the sheet listing, and then it will have your standard information in the title block area, things like company name, maybe project notes, disclaimers, you know, who drew it, who designed it, the sheet name, and the number. Now, if we go with the horizontal style for a title sheet, it's pretty much the same thing, but the information is located below. Now, these represent the title sheets. Now, the typical sheets that make up the drawing set will usually have the drawing in a particular area. The same information is on the right, but notice there is some additional information. So there's usually a small text that gives the location of the drawing on the particular computer, right? This is usually important so that you can remember where on that local hardware the drawing was sourced from, right? And then there's also a print date, which is different from a project delivery date, right? And this might vary from company to company. In this particular example, we're going to have a print date that's separate, and usually the print date is just an automatic timestamp of whenever this sheet was generated, which may be slightly different from a delivery date. So maybe you have a delivery date, but then the following day you had to reprint a sheet, right? Usually the entire drawing set will have the same delivery date, but you want to have specific date for each sheet because sheets tend to get updated from time to time. With the horizontal design, it's pretty much the same thing. But one thing you can notice with both of these designs is usually the sheet number is at the lower right hand corner. And one of the reasons for doing this is that usually sheets are bounded on the left hand side. So whether it's stapled or spiral bound, so that would mean that you flip the sheets open this way, which means that the sheet number is the first thing that you actually see. So if we look at this example here, we can see that, you know, if you should lay out some sheets on top of each other, the sheet number is usually at the lower right hand side. And the idea is that whenever you have to view the sheets and you peel back the sheets, the first thing you will see is actually that sheet number that's at the lower right hand side. So this is why you typically have the sheet number on this side and all the information on this side, because as you turn the page of the sheet and you lift up the page, the first thing you see is the title block. So you can quickly skip to the exact sheet that you need to get to. And this will be very efficient for the contractor, the builder who is on site that need to have these plans looking through. If they quickly need to get to, for example, the floor plans or the elevations, all they need to do is to skip quickly and they can just look at the information on this side of the sheet to know if they have arrived at the sheet that they're looking for. Now, in our project, we are going to create these sheets using the family editor, because how Revit works is you need to create a sheet, then load that sheet into your project to then distribute the views. So there are two designs that we can use here. We have the vertical design and the horizontal design, and you can use any one to lay out your sheets. However, for our tutorial I am going to be doing this using the typical vertical design, right? So with that said, there are two sheets that we are going to create in Revit. We're going to create a title sheet layout, and then we're going to create a sheet that will house all of the drawing views for the rest of our project, right? Now, when we head back into Revit, a sheet is really a member of a family. So we're going to be creating or modifying an existing family in order to get our sheets. Now, we don't have to draw a sheet from scratch and design our title block from scratch. What we can do is use an existing title block and then modify it to our liking. So what we're going to do is we're going to open an existing sheet family. So we're going to look under families now, and we're going to choose open. And then this is going to take us to our open dialog box. Now, what we're going to do is go to our default Revit folder, and we're going to go down to title blocks. And a quick point to note, I am using the Imperial folder. Now, even though this drawing is in metric, we tend to quote our sheet sizes in Imperial. So, for example, we said 24 by 36, 11 by 17, 8.5 by 14. This is how we normally kind of think about sheet sizes in our head. So because of that, we're going to use an existing family from the English Imperial, and you're going to go to your default US folder and go down to title blocks. Now you're going to see some existing sheet sizes here. Now we normally use what you call ArchD, right? Which would be a type of sheet that you would find here, usually at D, but we normally use 24 by 36. And notice you don't see that sheet size here. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to use the 30 by 42 for our cover page. You can see a sample of that there. And then we're going to use 30 by 42 for our typical pages. And we're going to start from these two versions and create our own custom design. So let's go ahead and let's design our cover sheet first. So we're going to open this E1 30 by 24 cover sheet. All right, when it opens up, this is what we get. Now, if you notice, the length of our sheet is 3'6", which is going to be the equivalent of 40, and then 2'6", which is the equivalent of 30. So all we need to do is to change these dimensions that we have here. So what I would suggest is that you can see that these are some offsets here. So for this cover sheet, the idea is that the information would be in this zone here, right? Now, before we continue, let's open the other drawing. So we're gonna go to file. We're gonna go to the little small open arrow here because we're gonna open a family, not a project. And now we're gonna open the other sheet. So let's go to title blocks. And then we're going to open this one here, the 30 by 42 horizontal. All right, so now we have these two sheets open. We have an example of a cover sheet, and then we have a...
Yeah, what's up?
Sorry to disturb, but
No. You should ask questions. Go ahead.
for the Imperial file, I don't have anything in it.
Oh, yours is empty. All right,
Yeah.
no worries. Let me just drop it in. Well, you're gonna need to install the template. What year are you using?
2025.
All right, so here's the trick. In 2025, you have to get the catalog from what do you call it? From within the platform interface, meaning you have to sign into Autodesk, go to products, go to add-ons, and all of this stuff. But for 2024 and below, it is available directly on the Autodesk website. So, for example, for those of you who don't have the templates, all you have to do is type in Google You just type Revit family or families. Catalog. Yeah, and it's the first thing that comes up. Download Revit family content. And when you click that, you see all the different versions here. Oh, they have 25. Oh, okay, lovely. Do they have it? No, exactly. You got to log in and do this long stuff. Okay, right. But if you go to like 24, you can download it directly from this website. By the way, 24 will work with 25, so it really doesn't necessarily matter. So what you would do is look for USA, which is usually close to the bottom. You're looking for English. You can just Control F and type English. Okay, here we go. US English for Revit 2024, and you would download this file. All right, you click download, and there's it. And then you will install it. And even though you have 2024, it will install in 2025, right? But there's a catch, right? When you go to add a family, if you're using 2025, but you install 2024 content, when you go to, did I close Rivet? Okay, yeah. When you go to Rivet, and let's say you go to open family. Right, it's not going to put you in the default location because you're in 2025. Instead, you're going to have to, come on. You're going to have to back up. So you're going to have to press the back button. Press the back button again. Press the back button again. And one more time. Until you're out into the Autodesk folder. And then you're going to look for your version of Rivet. So for example, if I install the 2023 template, then I would have to go down to 2023 and then go in that folder. And then in that folder, I'll go to libraries, and then I'd go to US and so forth, right? So this is if you install the 2024 while you're using 2025. You have to back up and browse to the 2024 folder. But here's a nice trick, guys. When you do that, all you need to do is when you go down to the new folder, you can just like let's say you go into this folder and you want to save English Imperial, just drag it over here. And that way you have a shortcut to it all the time. All right. So that is if you want to quickly download all of the Rivet families. Now, the official way Autodesk wants you to do this, they want you to sign in to Autodesk. Let me show you. This is like the shortcut way that I showed you a while ago using a 2024 version. But for the other way, what Autodesk wants you to do, if you click the 2025, you just follow these instructions, right? You need to sign in, you go to 2025, and then you go to libraries, and this is where you download it. So you go autodesk.com, and you can just click this link here. So you can choose any one of those versions. Now, for the purpose of class today, right now, I don't want you to have to wait to download this file. So I'm going to just paste it in Zoom. All right, who asked me again?
Me, sir. Okay.
Right, so I'm going to just drop it in the Zoom chat. The template in the Zoom chat. So anybody who wants to follow along, because we are doing a class activity which you're expected to finish now, you know, and that library file is 1 gig, so it's 2 gigs, so it's going to take a while to download. You will need it for your overall project, but for what we're doing right now, I'm just gonna grab this really quick. Title blocks. We're using this one. Can I just pull it in here? There we go. And we're using this one. All right, so it's now in the meeting chat. So anybody who doesn't have the libraries, you can just go to the meeting chat to access it. All right, guys, let us continue.
An example of a typical sheet. Now you can kind of see that we have some of our work kind of already done. We have a logo here, we have some information here, and we have an area for client name, project name, sheet number, and all of these things. Now, if you look back on our guiding template that we have here, this is some of the information that we want to have. So all we need to do is to manipulate that existing template to give us the actual values that we need. So with that said, what we're going to do is first let's change the size of our sheet. Now we want to keep this offset here in the middle. So for example, you can see that this is the intended area to do the drawing that you see in here. So there's a typical offset that you have here. There's a larger offset here, usually because this is the side that you bound the sheet on, so it has a larger offset. What we're going to do is click on each of these and lock them. So we're going to lock this one, and then we're also going to lock this one here, and lastly we're going to lock this one. So what that means is that whenever we move the line, the offset will remain the same. So the idea is that we want to click on this here, and we want this to be 36 inches. So that's going to be 36 inches. And it's telling us that we have to unjoin the elements. That's fine. And then we're going to adjust the base. Here we have it here. And this would be 24 inches. So this would be the size of 24 by 36. Now, right away, you realize that here, if I can highlight this here, our title block was not meant for 24 by 36. You can see that the title block is kind of out of place based on where we have it here. So if I move this out here, well, everything is kind of moving with it. So let's select here, and I think we are selecting the edge of the line, so we're going to deselect that and select this edge here. There we go. All right, this is our dimension line there, and we can delete this dimension. Right, so you can clearly see now that we have our title block separate. Now ideally the title block needs to fall inside of this space here, so we'll naturally need to adjust the height of our title block. So there are a couple things that we really don't need. We don't need this section here, so we're going to remove it, right? And we don't need all of these here, but we're going to leave one for our disclaimer, because if you take a look at our template here, we want to have a disclaimer, company logo, we want to have drawn by, checked by, sheet name, sheet scale, delivery date. So there are a couple of things that we want to have. So right away we can get rid of those. Then we can move this up, and I'm just using the arrow keys to move it up, or I can use the move tool. Then I want to move this down, so I'm going to go MV, move this down here. Now I want to have an area for the logo. In this case the logo is not going to be Autodesk, but we'll edit that a little later. This zone up here is going to be the logo. This zone here is going to be for our disclaimer. Then we're going to have the sheet name, the project name, and this now we don't need to have the the client name here, so we're going to remove that. The project name is fine, so we're going to have the project name there, and the sheet name is there. Drawn by, we're going to have our name here. Now we're not going to fill in this information on the sheet right now. Instead, these are basically empty slots, and when we insert it in our project, the names are going to be automatically inserted in these slots based on our project information. So essentially we're making a sheet template. All right, so what I'm going to do is, let me check this dimension here. So this is 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this here, and I'm going to copy that 1/8 offset there, and then I'm going to move this over to this spot here. So what I'm doing now is I'm configuring my sheet. All right, my sheet title block. So here I go. So I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch there as well, and I'm going to move all of this information up a little bit. So this is where I'm going to put my logo information, right? And I can put my contact information here and my logo.
Now, one thing to note, guys, You don't have to follow my exact design. You can have your own sheet design, but what you have to do, you have to have the same labels, right? So for example, client name, logo, all of that stuff, you have to have them. And preferably you need to have them in a reasonable location, right? If you want to go off and do your own design. So you can put your own logo, your own contact information. Where it says project number is going to be your ID, your student ID. So you're going to put your student ID there. And of course, drawn by, you're going to put your full name. So everybody needs to have this in their title block. Whether you want to use my vertical design or you want to use the horizontal design or you want to make up your own, you need to have them, that information.
Up here, let's correct this like that. And then this section here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put 1/8. I'm going to select all of this information and I'm going to move it down that. Now let's make this a little neater. So I'm going to add that there. Now you can ignore the dimensions that you see here, right? Notice I have the dimensions here. Let me remove that so that we can kind of see what we're working with. That's what we're working with. And we want to kind of trim this to be a bit neater. So we're going to cut in here like that. And then we're going to trim this up like that. There we go. And then we need to do the same thing here. So I'm going to copy this up 1/8. Remember, this template is in imperial. That's why we're type in decimals, and the reason we're doing that is because sheet sizes are usually quoted in imperial. Now if we look back on our drawing, we want to have the date down here, so we're going to move this to this side, or actually we can actually keep the date on this side. It's probably more efficient this way because, as I said, you normally see this part of the sheet first, right? Another bit of information we want to have is going to be the location of our drawing, right? So that's also important because you might have a file, maybe that file has been moved from wherever it used to be stored. Maybe nobody has an idea where that project is 5 years down the line, but when they look on the sheet, they will see that, oh, it was saved in Tom Jones My Documents folder. So we want to have a record of where the file was stored on our sheet, right? So in order to do that, we need to add a sheet label on this side. Let's clean this up. Now, each one of these that you see here, this is not a regular text. This is just a label, right? And a label is, as I said, it's like an empty slot. Whenever you insert it in your project, it automatically pulls from the project info. Whereas text is normally, you just enter it directly. So for example, this here is text. It's not a label. So for example, this would be a great place to insert any disclaimer or notes. Now there's a disclaimer that we're going to insert for this particular project. So we're going to be copying this disclaimer here, which basically is saying that this project is going to be used for learning purposes and that it does not represent official construction documents. Now, in this case, this would be a good disclaimer to put here, but maybe if you're in an office space, maybe they have their own standard disclaimers. So I'm going to select everything here and I'm going to just paste this text here. So when we get this pasted here, we are going to make this a little wider. It's going to be like that, and we press enter there. So this is going to be a disclaimer that we have here on our drawing sheet. All right, now before we go any further, let us save this. So I'm going to go to file, I'm going to go to save as, and wherever you are working on your project, right, it would be a good idea to save it there. Now for my purpose, I'm going to just save it in the original title blocks folder in the Rivet default folder category, and I'm going to call it Arch D 24 by 36 drawing sheet, and I'm going to save it there. Notice that this is being saved as an RFA file, right? So it's a family file which is meant to be inserted into a project file. So I'm going to click save. All right, then I'm going to continue working on this. So now what I want to do is I want to add a new label. What I just added just now was text, and if I wanted to add more text, I could just go to create and add a text, right? So for example, if I want to put my email address as a part of the contact, I can click text and I can click there and I can write my email address, brianwilliamsjm@gmail.com. And that would represent regular text. So I can remove this and I can put my name there. Now, if I want to add the location of a drawing, so for example, I want a text to show up here that tells me where this drawing is saved on the computer, I need to add a label with and not text. So in this case, I'm going to go to create, but I'm not going to go to text this time. I'm going to go to label, and I'm going to click to add a label. Now I'm going to get this dialog box, and basically this is asking me what kind of label do I want to add. So I'm going to look for, let's see, file path, and I'm going to add this label here. Now, what's going to happen now is that where you see sample value, this is going to be like a placeholder text that's placed on my sheet. So I'm going to choose OK. And then notice that it gives me a label called file path. So what this is going to do is it's going to, when you insert this in a project, it's going to automatically look for where that project is stored, and it's going to list that in this spot. So I'm going to make this pretty long, right? Also, I'm going to let it be right aligned. Then I'm going to rotate it this way, and then I'm going to stick it right here. So then this will give me a file path for the location of the project. All right, that's great. So let me replace this and put my logo there. Now, if you have a JPEG image, you can put that JPEG image there. For me, I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to say I'm going to look for my logo, and I'm looking for the logo on my computer, and then I'm simply going to drag that image onto my sheet here. I'm going to just make it smaller, and I'm going to put my logo up here. I'm going to remove this line, and there you go. So that's my logo that I want to put there, and usually you put your contact information, so I'm just going to have my email there. You can put whatever information and logo you wish to use. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to copy this information that's here, and we're going to go to copy, and then we're going to go over to our title page, and I'm going to paste align to current view. So this is that information that I created before, and
Sir,
I have now pasted into my.
Yeah, go ahead.
sir, so do I have to use the horizontal one, right?
No, you can use the vertical one for your cover page as well if you want. Right? I'm just doing both just to give you an example. You know, suppose you wanted to mix and match. You understand? But you can keep one vertical design for the entire layout, or you can keep one horizontal design for the entire layout. It's totally up to you. As long as you have both. As long as you have a cover page and your typical drawing page.
No problem.
Cool.
My title page. Now for my title page design, I think I'm going to go with the horizontal look to kind of match what's happening here. Let me put this to the side. Now, same thing again. I'm going to go through and I'm going to lock these dimensions here. Then what I'm going to do is select this line, and I'm going to make this 36 inches. And then this one here is going to be 24 inches. All right. So right away, this is going to be my actual sheet size. And I'm going to reconfigure this. I'm going to move this up back to here. And then I'm going to change some stuff around. So most of this information I can put back here. I'm going to remove the logo, and maybe I'll put the logo, my logo, let's center this, and I'll put my logo and contact information below this time. So maybe I'll put it on this side. I still have project name and project number, name, and all of this here, but I might change this up. So let me move this out here, and I kind of like the way that we had it on our other sheet. So I'm going to drag this, or let me copy it. I'm going to paste this in here. There we go. And what I'll do is just move this to touch this line with that one. There we go. Then I'll put project name. So let me move this logo over more. I'll put another line here. So I'll go to create, use line, and I'll just draw another line here, this top one. And then I will put project name and sheet name. So I'm going to copy this information and put here. Well, the project name is going to be in the title here, so I don't need a project name, but I will need the sheet name. So what I will do.
Now, guys, remember, I'm just doing my design here. If, as the question was a while ago, if you want to use the same kind of layout for your title page as well, no problem. Just remember, you need to have them as two separate files, two separate family files. You have to save one family file for your sheet title and another family file for your typical sheet. All right, so keep that in mind.
Well, this is going to be the cover sheet. So I don't need a scale for the cover sheet. So I'll remove the scale and I'll put the sheet name down here. All right. I'll put my logo right beside it. All right. I'll put my disclaimer on as well. Maybe I'll put my disclaimer right beside that. All right. Then I need to also put my file path. Well, I'll leave off the file path for the title page. It can be on the other pages, but that should be everything. So I can just delete these now. And now I've translated everything to the title page. Now, this space here could be, for example, maybe you worked with other persons on the project, other companies. So you would put their logos maybe here as well. You know, maybe it's good press, good advertisement for everybody who worked on this project that their logo is represented on the project. So usually you would designate a space for that, which would be on this side. So the space that is right here will house things like my sheet list and the perspective of my project, but I will put those on whenever we get to that. All right, so this will take client name, project name, and organization name. What I will do is I'm gonna take out drawn by, and this tag represents the author, I believe. Let me check that tag, drawn by. Right, so this is the person who drew it, so this would be my name. I want to actually move this and put it up here, so it will have my name at the top, and I will remove drawn by here. I can also remove checked by, because remember, this is the title page, so I don't need those. The project number can remain and the delivery date can remain. All right, okay, we'll move the number in the center of the page of that slot there. And then this, now we want this to be much bigger, so we're gonna choose a larger size, maybe not so big, yes, and then we're gonna make it center align, make it wider. So then this will have my name. So when I insert this into my project, my name should show up in this slot. The project name will show up here, and the organization name will show here. Now, I don't believe, yes, we don't need organization name in our particular project. So we're going to just remove that. This could be like the address. Instead of organization name, I would make it the address. So what I'll do is, let's remove this, and we are going to go to insert, now create. We're going to create another label. We're going to click here, and the label we're going to create is going to be project address. So we're going to add that label and choose OK. All right, so now we have project address. We're going to make it bigger, and we're going to center align it. So the project name will show up here, then the project address will show up below. And remember, this is our cover page, so this should be fine. All right, remember, everything we're doing here is really just placeholders for the actual page. All right, let's delete these dimensions here, and then we're going to save this, save as again, and I'm going to save it in the same folder, and I'll call it RHD 24x36, but this time I'll call it drawing title sheet. Okay, so we have now created our drawing sheets. We have one here and we have one here. So I want us.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna give you. Do we have time? Maybe we don't have time. So here's what we'll do. Now, after you create the sheets, you're gonna print a sample print. That's the one that you're gonna put on the mirror board. So there is a part 2 to this tutorial that we're gonna jump straight into, right? But here is what I will do. I will give you a little bit of extra time because I don't know, was anybody able to follow to create a title sheet, or you still need to watch it again?
Still need to watch it again, sir.
All right. So what I will do is we should be finished before the end of class, right? And I'll give you a little time after class to upload the PDF to the mirror board. All right, because I know you probably want to watch it again. So I'm going to, because the recording not going to be that long, I'm going to just save the recording and make it available same time, right? Now remember, you need to prioritize this if you're here now, because as I said, to get the class participation points, this is something that should be submitted in class time. All right. Now part 2 of this now is gonna show you how to add drawings to the sheet, right? And
Now what we're gonna do.
right, we're gonna show you how to add drawings to the sheet. Now the drawings you're gonna add to the sheet is gonna be from your major project. Now everybody is at different positions in your major project, but as I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you just started. Well, nobody should really have just started, but it don't matter if you if you haven't finished your BIM model yet, right? Even if you have a half modeled building, you are gonna put that on a sheet to get a title sheet, and you're gonna put that on a sheet to get a typical drawing sheet. All right. I am not marking how far you are in the model. What I'm doing is recording if you were successful in creating and printing a sample sheet title today. That's all that matters. So don't worry if you haven't completed the model. So to do this part, you're going to need your actual project that you have been working on, right? Because we're now going to insert the sheet into the project. So you guys are going to open up your project now that you've been working on so that you can insert the sheet that you just created. Now, those of you who are following, we can continue to follow. What I'm going to do is I am going to, well, here what? No, let us all go through it first, and then we'll do the recording. All right, let's do it that way. So if you're able to keep up, just continue keeping up. This is going to be another half an hour tutorial, around about half an hour, a little bit more. And then that will be it for the class activity. Any question, guys? Everybody understanding what I'm saying? Anybody have any questions?
After you finished going through this tutorial, no, you're gonna give us time after to.
Right, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes should be enough, right?
Oh. Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna give you like, I guess, an hour or something to finish. All
Okay.
right. All right.
And then after that, you would close the mirror board.
And then I close the mirror board, right? And whoever submitted on that time, you will be recorded as you participated. All right.
Okay.
All right. Let us continue.
Sir,
Now
I
what
wish
we're
I
gonna do-
I wish I had the recording now. So because I just fell behind a little bit.
A little bit.
When you were doing the duplicate for the title page.
I mean, I was going to make it part 1 available, but then it's going to be weird because we're going to be moving ahead in part 2. Tell me where you fall behind. Where you duplicated what?
The title page, because I made the page the 24 by 36 and I rearranged it.
Right.
And everything. It's just to duplicate it for the title page. But I don't want to hold up the class, so I'll say.
Well, here's what you do. You see this second part now, it does not require that your title block has been completed, but you do need to save the file. So let's imagine that you reach halfway in your title block. Maybe you created one, but you never finished the other one. All you need to do now to participate in this second part is save it. You need to save one as a title sheet and save one as a typical sheet. Because it doesn't need to be completed for you to do this part. Because this part is just putting the drawings on the sheet. That's literally all we're doing. So you can always go back and edit the sheet itself. You get what I'm saying? So let's try it that way. And for those who um who just fell a little behind, you can still continue with this part of the tutorial, and then we just go back and edit the sheet drawing when we're done. All right. So everybody should open up their project files by now, right? And we're off.
Is to start putting the views on our sheets. So we're going to open back the project file. Now we're going to start to put some of our drawings on sheets. And in order to do that, we are going to go down to our sheets category. So let's minimize some of these. We're going to go down to sheets and we're going to right click and say new sheet. Now the sheet that we need isn't in this list. We're going to have to load it in. So we're going to choose load and we're going to go to the folder that we saved our sheets template in, or sheet family. So we're going to go to here, and then you'll notice that we have the RHD 24x36 sheet. So
right, so I saved my sheet as RHD 24x36 and then RHD 24x36 title. You can name your sheets whatever, all right, but you just need to save it in order to be able to insert it in the project. All right,
so we have a title sheet and we have a regular sheet. So we are going to open the regular sheet first and we're going to load that in and choose OK. So now we have our sheet loaded in, and all we have to do now is start to pull our drawings in. Now, a couple things to notice about the sheet. Notice that it is now reading the location of our project. It is giving our sheet based on our sheet number. So if I expand this, you see that this is called sheet A101 and the name of the sheet is unnamed. It has the name of the project, and then we have here to put in the name of the author and so forth. All right, so what we're going to do is first let's talk about the sheet number. Now every office, every organization has their own way of doing sheet numbers. Now we will also have our method, and if I open that up, this is going to be the method that we use. Now just so that we can understand the naming convention of architectural sheets, our method is going to have 4 digits separated by a dot for each pair of digits. The first digit is going to represent the industry or discipline. So this means that it's going to either be architecture, mechanical, engineering, and a letter will represent each discipline. So in this case, the first letter is going to be A in this example. The next digit is going to represent the sheet type. So in our case, we're going to have general sheets, plans, sections, elevation, details, 3D views, and just call it other types of views. Each one of these sheet types is represented by a number. So let's say that we were talking about plans. So that would be sheet type 2. So it's going to be A for architecture and 2 for sheet type 2 plans. Now there are many types of plans. So just under the plans category, we have site plan, demolition plan, floor plans, reflective ceiling plans, unit plans, enlarged plans. There are different types of plans. So each type of plan is going to be represented also by a number, but after the decimal place. So in this case, we're talking about the reflective plans, reflective ceiling plans, that is. So it's going to be represented by 3. So far we'll have A for architecture, 2 for plans, and the type of plans is going to be 0.3, which is reflective ceiling plans. And our last digit will represent the sequence. So let's say, for example, if we have a 10-story building, then we're going to have 10 reflective ceiling plans. So all 10 plans will not fit on one sheet. So we might have more than one reflective ceiling plans. So we have to start counting them. So for example, let's say that this sheet is going to be the second reflective ceiling plan sheet. Then it would be 0.32. So it would be architecture, plans, and the type of plan is reflective plans, and then it is the second reflective plan sheet because it has a 2, right? So this is what these digits will mean for our particular firm. This is going to be the rules by which we abide by as it relates to sheets.
Now, this is something that everyone needs to understand. And does anybody have any questions on how sheets work? Did this sound confusing to anyone?
Sir, not a question about that, but I was wondering why I can't copy the disclaimer from the mirror board.
Oh, you're not able to copy it?
No.
Okay. I thought you should be. No worries. Let me put it in the chat. There we go. Let's see, you can just copy it from Zoom. I don't know why you should be able to copy it. Or maybe somebody else was clicking it. Okay, so back to this. Does everybody understand how this work? Guys, was this confusing to anybody?
Sir, I get the industry discipline part, but the theory too can just like re-explain that.
So you can think of it this way. I could have written this out in a long way and say, all right, this sheet is going to be called architecture. I could say this sheet is going to be called architecture plan RCP second floor. I could literally have written out the name of the sheet like this. But the difference is that we just have each type of plan represented by a number. Because in architecture, we don't want to write the word architecture, so we just put A. We don't want to write the word plan, so we put 2. We don't want to write the word reflective plans, so we put 3. It's just that the 3 comes after the dot. And the reason why we put a dot there is so that we can visually separate those numbers. Because some firms don't have a dot. They just have one long number. And it would say something like, hold on, let me do it somewhere else so I don't edit this. Right. It would just say something like, A1045 or whatever. You understand? No, it would say A145, right? Some architectural firms will have it this way. Some architectural firms will have A.1.1.5. It doesn't matter. Some people will have dashes, A-145. You get what I'm saying? So all we're doing is representing the word with a number. Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You following? Right. We're just trying to shorten it because we can't fit it in the little title block on the sheet. You might even have some firms who don't use numbers. They literally write out the name of the sheet. But most people don't do that. They just put a name there. So you can't assume that your firm number 3 represents sections. They will have their own representation of each category. All right, thank you for asking that question. Any more questions on sheet titles? Because remember, guys, you don't have to do this today, but like when you submit your work, you're gonna have to give each sheet the right number. Right? So I'm happy to go over this so that you can understand this numbering system for architectural sheets. Anybody else have any questions? No? All right. Let's keep it moving.
Now, most architectural offices will have some kind of visual guide to tell you the type of sheets and the category. So just like how I explained before, these will be our naming conventions or CAD sheets naming standards, right? So general sheets will be A1, plans will be A2, sections A3, and so forth, right? And then the type of each sheet type will also have corresponding numbers, right? So usually you will have this kind of rule book that guides how you lay out your sheets. Now, some projects are much larger, so they might have more complicated naming conventions for sheets. In our case, we don't have much sheets, and we're going to use this simple naming convention. So when you are labeling your sheets, you should be coming back to this list and checking to see what kind of sheet is this, right? And you give it the ideal code based on the type of sheet.
All right. Now, these two things are saying the same thing, but this is just listed out this way. And where you see I have the word X, that simply means whatever digit comes there, you put it in. It's like a placeholder. All right. All right.
Now, this makes it very organized for the persons who are looking through the sheets. And of course, this means that we would have to reduce the amount of mixing of sheets. Or rather, mixing of views on sheets. What do I mean by that? For example, you would not necessarily want to put plans along with sections on the same sheet, right? So you wouldn't, for example, have a sheet that has a floor plan and a section. And the reason for that is that floor plans are supposed to be on sheets that are titled, A2 point whatever, and sections are A3 point wherever. So when you mix these two together, it's going to confuse the naming system for the sheets. So with this method, let's say you have one floor plan and you have enough space for a section. For the purpose of doing construction drawings, you would not mix those view types together because the office would have guidelines as to which drawings will fall on which sheets.
Now, that is very different from when you're in school, because obviously, you kind of just put anything on any sheet when you're in school, which is fine. And usually for the purpose of presentation, even in the work world, let's say you're doing a interim presentation, you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about this naming convention at an early stage in the project. But when you're talking about producing a drawing set, you have to stick with it. All right, guys. Hope we're clear on that. Thumbs up if we're clear. Are we clear? Some of us? Most of us? Cool. All right. Cool. All right. Let's proceed.
So we're going to keep the guide handy in this corner right here so that we can remember what the guidelines are for our sheets. And we do have some drawings here. So if I look under floor plans, notice that I have a site plan and I have a couple floor plans here. I also have reflective floor plan as well. So what I would say is let's say that this drawing here is going to be for our floor plans.
Now, for you, remember that you guys are at different stages in your project. So maybe you don't have reflective ceiling plan yet or section yet. That's fine. I am not requesting any particular drawing on a sheet. You just need to put any drawing that you have on a sheet to give an example that, hey, I have created a sheet. All right, guys. So you don't have to follow. And if I'm putting ground floor on a sheet, it don't mean that you have to put your ground floor. Put whatever plan you want to put or elevations on whatever sheet. What I need at the end of the day is just an example. All right.
So we're going to have our lower floor, upper floor, roof floor plan now placed on sheets. And then we have to label these sheets appropriately based on what's going to be on those sheets. So to start putting drawings on sheets, what we're going to do is we're going to drag our lower floor over onto this sheet. We're going to click once and notice we'll see our lower floor plan here. Now, right now, this floor plan is at a scale of 1 to 100. That's our floor plan there, right? Now, based on this floor plan, pretty much only one floor plan will be able to fit on this sheet. So we've placed the floor plan here. The title of the floor plan is going to be down here. So in order to move the title closer to the floor plan, so we're going to place the plan in the middle of the sheet, and we're going to let's deselect, and we're going to grab the title and move it to the lower left part of the sheet like that. Now, if you notice, you see that the title of the sheet is being called the same thing as what we named the sheet here. Now, we don't have to have those having the same name, because the name that we want to give it on our sheet might be different than what we want to name it in our project. So in our project, we're giving it a name that it's easy to identify. But on our sheet, we want to give it a more standard name. So to do that, if we head over to the left side over here, then scroll down, we need to click on the drawing and scroll down. You will see where it says title on sheet, which is different from view name. Now the view name is what you see here, but the title on sheet can be a separate name. So we can call this lower floor. Let's put it in all caps. And then you notice that the name of the sheet changes to lower floor, but the view name is still kept, which is exactly what we want. Now the next thing to notice is that you see this blue box filled in here, which tells us that this view is now located on a particular sheet. All right, good stuff. Now what we're going to do is we need to adjust the line that is here. So to do that, we need to click on the drawing, and then you'll notice that you get these adjustment lines come up. Now this is not to be confused with if you're trying to move the title. So let me repeat that. If I need to move the title, then with nothing selected, I need to just drag the title and move it. If I want to edit the length of the title line, I first need to click on the title and then adjust the title line. Now adjusting the title line, you're not able to move the title. So keep in mind that there are two different methods to do this, right? If I want to adjust the line, I click on the drawing. If I want to move the title, I deselect the drawing and then just grab it and move it. Okay, so we have the title here. We can put it directly under. We can put it to the lower left, wherever we want to put it. All right, so we're going to put this in the center of our sheet. All right, now the next thing we need to do is we need to move our elevation markers into the vicinity of the sheet. So to do that, we're going to double click. So we're now in the sheet, and then we're going to move these markers and just place them closer in the vicinity of the sheet. Now these elevation markers, they are blank as it is at the moment because we haven't placed those elevations on sheets as yet. So we're going to move those in. Then we're going to double click on the outside to go back to our sheet. All right, so good stuff. So now we have this sheet done for the lower floor plan. Now we need to name our sheet. Now if you remember our naming convention, right, it's architectural, so it's A1. However, we are doing floor plans, which is A2.2, and then whatever the sequence is. So we need to now click on our sheet, right click and choose rename, and then we're going to call this A2.20 because this is our first plan sheet, and we're going to give this sheet a title. We're going to call this lower floor plan, and we're going to put maybe PD there for presentation drawing. Oh, we can't have brackets. Let's rename that again. So A2.20, no, A2. So it's going to be A2.2, right, 0.20. So it's A2.2 because it's floor plans, and then it's 0 because it's the first floor plan, which we start counting from 0. All right, and the name of this, let's call it lower floor PD for presentation drawing. So now notice that we have the name of the project, the name of the drawing, then we have our sheet A2.20. We have our project number, which should be our ID number. We have our issue date, which we need to insert and drawn by and checked by. All right, so let's fill in those information. Now, if we want to fill in this information, we would select the sheet and we'll fill in that information here on this side. Now, in a typical office, you might have different sheets being created by different people. So this is why this is set up this way, where you can have different sheets that have different authors and approved by different people. So on the author, we want to put, I'm going to put my name. So it's going to be Brian Williams, and you will see my name appear there. The issue date, we'll put in a date here, which is already here. Checked by, we're going to put the name of our tutor there. So B. Williams. And designed by should also have your name. Well, it should actually have the name of the original designer. So we're going to just grab that. We're going to grab that from here. We double click this, it will open in the family editor, and we can just copy this name here. These names who are the original designers of this project, and we're going to just click this here, and we're going to put in the designed by, that there. All right, now we don't have designed by in this section, we only have drawn by, so that is fine. And then we are displaying the scale, which is displayed on this type of drawing here. All right, so remember, project number is going to be your ID number, so you can drop that in there. All right, so I do believe we have our first sheet. Now we're going to repeat this process for the other sheets. So to get the other sheets done, we can really just duplicate this sheet here. We're going to right click and choose duplicate. And we can choose duplicate empty sheet, and notice it will duplicate with all of the contents, and it's going to call it lower floor presentation drawing copy 1. So we can right click this and choose rename, and the sequence is correct because it's going to be a 2.21 because this is the second sheet, but this is not going to be the lower floor. This is now going to be the upper floors. Okay, and then we're going to drag the upper floor onto our drawing, and we're going to do the same thing again. Now notice that the elevation markers are now fixed because we fixed it on the previous floor. So all we have to do now is to just place this here and adjust the length, and then change the name of the title. So we click on it and then scroll down to title on sheet. We want to call that upper floor in all caps, and then we're done. Now we're going to also do the roof plan as well. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to duplicate this and we're going to rename it. So we're going to call that roof plan. This should actually be all caps. Well, let's change these. All right, and for our roof plan, we're going to drag the roof plan there. Now we haven't configured our roof plan as yet, so that's going to take a little bit more work. But we can place it on the sheet for now, and we can just select the drawing, and we're going to apply the view template. We're going to change it from architectural plan to present. Oh, well, this is actually going to be working drawings, not presentation plans. So we haven't configured that plan as yet. So this sheet is not going to be quite ready as yet. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's work on our site plan. So for our site plan, we're going to duplicate our sheet again. But this time when we duplicate it, we realize that site plans are going to be A2.0. So we need to rename this. So we're going to call it site plan, and A2 is going to be 00 because it's going to be the first site plan drawing. I'm going to choose OK. And notice that this is automatically arranged in alphabetical order. And we're going to drag that site plan here onto our drawing here, like that. Now, for our site plan, notice that we have the graphic scale and the north arrow. That's going to be there. And usually site plans are usually at a smaller scale. So we're going to select the site plan here. If we click it, notice that it's also including the base of the drawing. So we're going to double click in there, and we are going to turn on our crop, and we're going to crop this down. Then we're also going to change the scale. So notice the scales are grayed out if we try to change it down here, and the reason for that is that this is actually based on a view template. So we're using the presentation site plan view template, which has its scale set up inside the view template. So we're going to change that to 1 to 200, and then we're going to move it back in place. So we need to double click to come out of this, go back to paper space and move this there. Now we want.
Now again, guys, remember, if you don't plan to put your site plan as the sample sheet, then you can ignore these instructions for the purpose of this activity. Remember, you can use any plan you want, whether you want to use a site plan or the floor plan, just pick one. All right. So this would be for
So
those.
it's just one we need. So if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did the upper floor, I don't have to do anymore.
You don't have to do any more for today's activity. Exactly.
Okay.
But you need to do the cover sheet, right? So remember that. So there are two PDFs you're going to really give me. One cover sheet, and then the other is just any drawing, any sample of any drawing in your project, floor plan, site plan, whichever. So I'm just
question.
Mhm.
The grids, do both of them on both sides have to be showing on the sheet? Or
No,
if I have
you can
one on
turn
one
it off.
side?
Yeah, you can turn it off if you want.
Oh, I can turn. Do I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
to?
There's a check button. No, you don't have to. Remember, these sheets are not final sheets, you know. You're just giving me a sample. I mean,
Okay.
but ultimately you're going to, you're trying to finish this project for in a week time. So you know what? You should try and do as much as you can. You get what I'm saying? So if you need to turn off the grid lines, because that's what you intend to do for the final sheet, then you turn them off. All right. All right. Let's proceed.
I want to turn off the border from here. So two ways.
So if you were planning, if you wanted to show the site plan as your sample sheet, then you would follow this in this tutorial. If you wanted to show the floor plan, then you'd follow what I did before. I'm just doing everything for everybody. And then after this, I'm going to go through the title sheet, what you do for the title sheet.
Ways we can do that. We can either double click to go back into the drawing space and then turn off the border, or let's go back to paper space. We can click it, and then on our options we want to uncheck crop region visible, and there we go. So notice now that the north arrow is an appropriate size, because usually site plans are smaller, right? And we also have our graphic scale here. We can move it around if we so choose, right? So I'm going to put the title of the drawing here, and we're going to do the same thing again, and we're going to rename this on the sheet and call it the site plan. There we go. All right, good. So we have our site plan. So far when we look on the sheets, we have site plan, we have lower floor, and we have upper floor. We have roof plan, which roof plan is going to be construction drawings, and we haven't configured that yet, so it's not looking so neat, but we're going to come back to that. Now, as we open multiple drawings, notice that the drawing comes at the top of our Revit here, and when the drawing fills up this space, you're going to click this to access the rest of your drawing, because you're not always going to see all your drawings here when it gets to be many sheets. So you're going to click this to see the rest of your drawings. All right, let's close the family of the drawing sheet here. Yes, we can save it, or yes, because we did make a modification to it. All right, so now we have our sheet there. Now what we're going to do is work on our title sheet. Now to get our title sheet, we're not going to duplicate, let's minimize this, we're not going to duplicate an existing sheet. We could do it that way, but ideally we would want to go right click sheets and choose new sheet. Then we're going to load in our title sheet. This is going to be our title sheet here, and we're going to choose OK. So notice it has the author, then it also has the address, and it's reading this information from the project information, which is great. Now, as I look at this, I think we need to make some modifications. This needs to be longer so that it doesn't go in multiple lines. So to do that, I'm going to click on the title sheet and choose edit family, and I'm going to make the project address longer, and I'm going to move this up some more. I'm going to load into project and close. Yes, I want to override. And when it goes back to the project, I'm going to say, yes, I want to override, and it's parameter. And there we go. So that gives us a little bit more space. Now it's still reading the project information here, just like what we had before. It is unnamed because we haven't named the sheet yet. So let's go ahead and name the sheet. Now we see that cover sheets should be A1.0 and so forth. So we want to name this sheet. We can press F2 to rename, and we're going to call it A1-0-0 because it's the first of the cover sheets. And then we're going to call this cover sheet. Okay. Now it has the name and it comes to the top. Now, if we look on the idea for our cover sheet, we wanted to have our sheet list, a perspective view, and a location plan as well. So we want to put these views on our sheet. So that would translate to putting a sheet list here put in a perspective view in the middle, and then put in a location plan on this side. So let's go ahead and do that. Now we already have a perspective view that we did earlier. So if I open up views, go to 3D views, we did do a perspective view, right? Perspective showing elevation 1, showing the entry areas. So we can drag that onto our sheet like that, and that's what we get.
All right. Now, some of you might not have a perspective. Right. Mic check. Right. Some of you might not have your perspective view ready. It doesn't matter. Just use your 3D view, duplicate it. You don't have to do the same view that I am doing for my perspective view. Just put any perspective view on the cover. All right, guys. The objective, as I said again, is to submit a sample of your cover sheet and typical sheet. So don't worry too much about perfecting the actual drawings, because I'm not marking the drawings. All right, at least not yet.
Now, if you remember, I said earlier that for perspective views, it's best to wait until you put it on a sheet so you can know what size perspective you have to play with, because perspective views don't work with scale. So we can't say that this is a 1 in 200 scale and we know that 1 in 200 will fit. Instead, we have to place it on the sheet and then work within the confines of the perspective to set the view. Now, setting up perspective views in Revit can be a little tricky, so we're going to go through that now. Now, the first thing we want to do when we're setting up the perspective view is let's set our boundary. So let's double click to go in the view. We're gonna, right now in this view, we are locked to the, let's see, let's go up here. Oh, we're not locked to a scope box. So here is our view that's here. Now we want to crop this inward to the area that we want to do the perspective of. Now notice that we are like cutting into the view, but that's okay, because how perspectives work, you need to set up your boundaries first and then you work within that boundary. So we know we're going to have the sheet listing here. We don't know how long it's going to be, but it should be able to fit. And on the right here, we're going to have our location plan. So pretty much this is the size that we have to play with in here. So once you set up your boundaries, now we need to go to our navigation wheel. We're going to click that, and the navigation wheel moves around with the mouse. So what we're going to do is adjust this. So first thing we're going to do is zoom out, and then we're going to pan down. Let's zoom out some more, pan down some more, and there we have, we have the beginnings of a perspective view. Now let's say we want to make the view a bit more dramatic. We might want to click this little down arrow here and then go to increase or decrease focal length. So let's click that. Now we're going to click and drag, and what we want to be doing is pulling away from our model. Then we're going to press escape, and then we're going to use the zoom tool and zoom into our model. Now what this is doing, it's making the view a little bit more skewed. So I'm going to zoom into our model some more. Then I'm going to use the increase decrease focal length again and pull out from my model. So about that should be good. Press escape. Let's pan. And what you notice happening is that the model is becoming more skewed. Now notice when I move this around, if I move this down, I'm going to be like floating above the building, but I want to be on the ground. But the more I'm on the ground, you can see that the view is getting a little bit angled. So what you need to do is you also need to control your title cropping area. So what I'm going to do is move this up, pull the bottom up like that, and then I'm going to come out of the view, double click to go back in paper space, and move the view down. So notice that I'm going between being in the viewport, manipulating my camera, then coming out of the viewport and manipulating the extents of my view, right? So I want to change this some more. So I'm going to double click to go in the view, grab back my tool. I'm going to orbit this some more, and I think I want it to be a little bit more dramatic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing again, increase decrease focal length. I'm going to pull away just a little bit, Then I'm going to zoom in. Let me pan down a bit. Right. So now this is getting a little more interesting in our view. Pan to the right. Let me zoom out a little bit. I can see how it looks. Now I can pan all the way until I'm basically on the floor. Let's zoom in some more. Pan. Now what you notice is that the view is being kind of skewed, like a 3-point perspective, meaning, you know, it's kind of skewing upwards because I'm so low on the ground looking up. Right now you can fix that. Rivet doesn't really have a 2-point perspective tool, but you can get around that by manipulating your views. So how you do that is, so what we want to do is we're going to have to be going back and forth between using our viewport and using our window crop. So ideally, I would say that we would want to have this to be like a wide shot like that. And then perhaps we would want the sheet list to go here and then the location map to go here. So what we can do is we can grab our view cube and carry this down, maybe like this. And if we want to orbit, let's say we want to go a little bit, let's pan it down a little bit. There we go. And then what we can do is exit, and then we can adjust our crop to be taller or shorter depending on how much we want to see. Now, if we want the building to be a bit bigger, we can go back into our focal length here, and we can push in to the focal length this time. Then use the view wheel to kind of pan out. We can orbit it, and if you notice, we're getting that skew issue again. So what we can do to fix that is we can orbit our view to where the lines are straight, then pan down a little bit. And if we pan down but we're getting too much ground and not enough sky, then we exit and adjust our crop to get more sky. So that is how we kind of balance all of the panning and the view. And then we go back to paper space and we can move this whole view down like that. All right, so let's turn off the crop. Yes, and I think that that is a view that we want to use.
All right, so I hopefully from that you kind of get how to manipulate a 3D view in Revit. It's a little convoluted, but but trust me, there are people to this day that don't know how to manipulate a 3D view in Revit, because it's not so simple. You have to be adjusting the crop, going to the view wheel, coming out of the crop, adjusting the perspective. It's really a convoluted mess, but at the same time, if you understand it, it becomes norm. All right. Okay, we're almost there.
Now let's get our location map here, and a quick way that we can do that is we can go over to manage, and since we have already geolocated our project, we can go to the location button here, and this will open our location dialog box, and it will show us where our building is. And what we can do is just take a screenshot of this, hold it by holding down Windows key shift and press S, and we can grab a screenshot of this here, and that's our screenshot there. And then we can just save this to the desktop. Now it doesn't matter if you save it to the desktop or to the project folder. Revit will automatically embed the image. All right, now we have the image saved. We're going to go to import image. Let's go to the desktop, and we're going to import this image and stick it right there, and then we can adjust the size of it. There we go. Then we can give it a title if we want. So we can just go to annotate, and we can add a text on the sheet, and we can call it location. Now we can click on the text and change the size to be much bigger. Let's put it to the right. Let's make it a bit bigger. Okay, there we go. All right, now let's add the sheet listing on this side. Now to add a sheet listing, what we have to do is add a sheet list schedule in Revit, and schedules are used to add, for example, door schedules, window schedules, room schedules, but also sheet schedules. If we head over to our project browser and we look under schedules, we see that this template already came with a bunch of pre-made schedules. However, a sheet schedule is not amongst this list, so we have to create a new schedule for that. So to do that, we right click and we choose new schedule. Nope. Let's go again. Right click and choose new sheet list schedule. When this comes up, we're gonna add the sheet name and the sheet number. Perhaps we want to put the sheet number first, so we can click sheet number, and we can use this button here to just put the sheet number first. Then we're going to choose OK. All right, so now we have created a schedule. Now I'm going to just drag out this schedule sheet and have it as a floating window. This is usually a best practice. And if you look on my listing here, you'll see a new schedule called sheet list. And what I'm going to do is just drag it out onto my sheet, and I'll just stick it maybe right here. And with this, this is just like using a Excel spreadsheet. I can move this around. I can now place this schedule anywhere. So I could place it closer to the top, and I can now go in and edit the schedule. Now, how I edit the schedule is not on the sheet, but using the schedule view that is here. Now, also notice that my sheet listing is now on a sheet, so hence it has the blue filled box right there. All right, so what I'm going to do here, so for example, I'm going to change the name to be all caps, and notice that updates here. Now, if I want to change the appearance of the schedule, one way to do that is, while I have the schedule highlighted in my properties panel, I'm going to go to formatting, and let's say for the sheet number, I want to have it center aligned here. So I need to put this to sheet number, and I can say alignment center. And if I choose OK, then it now becomes in the center. Now I can go back to formatting again, edit, and this time let's go to appearance. And what I can do, I can change the title text to be a large text, and I can choose OK. So notice that sheet list now is very large. Now I could also make the text here larger as well, if I believe it's too small for my sheet. Let's go back here, format, let's change the heading to be 7, and let's change the headings to be a little bigger, and the body text will be default, and I'll choose OK. All right, there we go. I can make this a little wider. All right, now I could also edit the text here by going to the font, and there we go, and I can, for example, make this now bold, and notice that it's bold here. So I can go to font to override what I set, or I can go into appearance to set up the appearance of the sheet list. Essentially, schedules are like a type of Excel, but for Revit. It operates on the same kind of spreadsheet methodology, where you can insert formulas, change the size of cells, you can change the shading of the cell, the size of the font, the alignment. You can hide cells, but it's just that the interface is different from Excel. All right, so with that said, we have now created a sheet list and a location map, and we have also created, if I go here, we have now created a cover sheet, site plan, and a couple floor plans. Now let's talk about printing. Now typically, if we wanted to print this cover page here, we would just go to file and we just go to print. We'll get a dialog box that comes up. In my case, I'm using a PDF printer as default, but we'll see a listing of your different printers that are going to be here. Now I can print the current window, which is going to be what I'm seeing here. And if I hit print preview, you'll notice that's what I get here. But a couple things to notice. In the print dialog box, it is being printed based on these settings. And if I look in these settings, it's being printed based on a letter size that's here. Now, if I'm printing a single page directly to a physical printer, this might be the method I use. However, the best practice for printing drawing sheets is usually to print it to a PDF, and then you print that PDF to a physical printer, right? So in printing in Revit, we would not use the print dialog box. The best practice would be to go to export and say export PDF. We click that, we get a dialog box here. Now once we're on this page, we have the same options to print the current view, but in this case we want to print a bunch of views. We want to print the cover sheet, site plan, lower floor plan, upper floor plan, and to do this we need to create a sheet set. So we're going to click this little pencil icon here. We're going to get a listing of all our views in our entire entire project, including our sheets. And what we're going to do is we're going to check cover sheet, site plan, the lower and upper floor. Now we're not going to print the roof plan because it's not quite done as yet. We're just going to print this as a test print. Speaking of test print, we can just create a new print set by clicking the create new button here. And we're going to call this test print set. So once we choose OK, well, we have to choose them again. We have to create the sheet set first, and then we select the sheets. Right, so there it is. Now we can choose to hide the other sheets and just keep the sheets that are selected here. And then we want to save the current set. So this is going to be our sheet set that's saved under this heading, print, the test print set. So we're going to choose select. So now we know that it's going to select the sheets that are in this sheet set that's here. Now for our export, we click these. We can save our export settings if we wanted to. So all the settings here, we can save this to a file so that we can come back to it. Maybe we go to a different computer. We have all of these settings saved. Now, right now it is set to combine selected views and sheets into a single PDF. And it's going to name that PDF this name here. Now I can, if I wanted to name name it this name, then that is fine. So I'm going to keep that there. And this is the location that I want to save it at. So I'm going to change this location to the desktop for my purposes. What is my sheet size? Okay, so I'm going to be using 24 by 36, which is going to be Arch D. That's here. And for my zoom, I'm going to set my zoom to 100%. And this is usually best practice because setting the zoom to 100%, you know that your sheet will fit 100% because your sheet is 24 by 36. Your page for exporting is 24 by 36. So those two should line up exactly. Usually if you click print to sheet, what it's going to do, it usually crops it down a little bit by a few millimeters, which can make it a little more inaccurate. So you want to choose zoom to 100. You want the placement to be in the center. The orientation, we can leave that to automatic, or we can just set it to landscape. For any raster images, things like the location site plan that we have here, which is a raster image, we can set that to presentation, which is the highest quality, and everything else we can pretty much leave as default. Now, as you suspect, these are all custom settings here, and this is why it's a good idea that you can actually save your setting. So if I click these three dots here, I'm going to save this entire setup as PDF export setup settings BDW. So now all of these settings that I've saved here is saved under this profile, and I can just click it again to get back all of these settings. Now I'm going to choose export, and we're just going to wait a bit for this to export. When it's exporting, you can see a percentage happening down here, and depending on how much sheets you have and the different lighting quality, that will determine how long it takes to print. Now when it's done printing, you'll notice you get this message here, which is basically telling you that all of the shading and shadows that you have in your project is going to be calculated as pixels, as raster images. All right, let's take a look on that now. So if we head to our desktop, we will see the PDF that has been printed here. So these are the 4 pages that have been printed. Now keep in mind that this is a 24 by 36 sheet. So this is the reason why it will take a little while to print, because it's, even though you're looking at it on a small screen, it's meant to be printed at 24 by 36, right? This is our presentation plan. There we go. Now, if you wanted this to print quicker, you can reduce the quality in the quality settings that we saw before. So if you go back to export, you go to PDF, you can change the raster image quality to like high or medium, and that should let it process a bit quicker. But for now, we have our sample print set. So from now on, what we can do now is finish the other drawings. So we did all of our presentation drawings. We still have the solar study sheet to do, and maybe a sheet with some perspective of the building. Then we're going to have our working drawing views to create and then put on sheets. Now, while we're here, let's not forget that where it says author here, we can change that to our name. Now notice that it will say any name that you have already, it will save it in the listing. Let's change it to Brian Williams. and that changes up there. All right, so that does it for understanding how to place your views on sheets. Now we just have to finish creating the rest of views.
All right, guys. So that is pretty much it. Now, I'm looking on the time and I realize that, okay, we've pretty much used up the time. So here's what I'm going to do, guys, right? I'm going to give those who are here, I'm going to give you until, it's now what, 9 o'clock? Today is Monday. You have studio tomorrow. Right. So I'm going to give you like about 2 hours. Right? And remember, all you need to do is you need to create a sample print for me. One showing the cover page and the other showing a typical page. You think you can do that in 2 hours, guys?
Yes, sir.
So this, as I said, guys, this is not homework. This is actually something that we're supposed to be doing while we're in class here. At least that's the way it was configured. So I'm gonna say goodbye for today. In about 10 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
We don't need to put on a logo. Like, we can leave the after this logo.
Yeah, you can just leave that to this logo. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, don't do it for your final handing, but for
Yeah,
this,
yeah, but
no
for now,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. All right, because as I said, I'm not marking your work. I'm marking if you participated by creating a sheet title. All right, guys. All right, so that's gonna be it for class today. I'm gonna leave you now. In about 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes maybe, for this upload to take place. So you guys should just continue working. Just check back the website in a couple minutes. You should see this upload there. Upload the PDFs, not screenshots, but PDFs. A while ago, you learned how to export PDFs. So I want you to upload the PDF to the mirror board. I'll close on the mirror board later tonight. And then that is it for the class activity today. All right, guys. All right. I will see you again next week. And next week, we're going to be tackling construction drawings. All right. And I think that is actually the last leg for your individual project, right? So now is the time to kind of catch up if you find that you're falling behind. Everyone should almost be finished with their model. Definitely for this week, you just put in stuff on sheets. Between this week and next week, you just put in stuff on sheets. All right, guys, have a good rest of the week. Bye.
Sir,
Finish your class activity. Yeah, go ahead.
just quick, did you get my email?
Yes. Hold on a second here. Let me